On the 9th of July 1986, members of the National Assembly under Ziaul Haq's regime met at the Parliament House where they moved to amend the Blasphemy Bill 295C to include the death penalty. There were 6 parliamentarians who primarily debated the inclusion of the death penalty. Maulana Gohar Rahman, Hamza Sahab, Mir Nawaz Marwat Khan, Liaquat Baloch, Begum Nisar Fatima, and Sayyid Shah Turabul Haq Qadri. Our story begins with Maulana Gohar Rahman stating, "The punishment for insulting the Prophet is death, and there is a consensus on the matter." Mir Nawaz Khan, Minister for Justice, proposes the amendment in favor of the death penalty and states, "Whoever defiles the sacred name of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, shall be punished with death or imprisonment for life, and shall also be liable to fine." Nisar Fatima adds, "If this bill is not passed, the government will need to provide us with sanctuary, though there is no sanctuary from God, and the masses will never forgive me." Turabul Haq Qadri also used an emotional appeal when he claimed that, "If we reject this bill, let's keep in mind that 250,000 people can surround the parliament, Mr. Speaker. We will not ignore this threat." Hamza Saab, the lone voice of opposition, interjects to state that the Islamic sources used to justify the death penalty should be verified. He states that, "On the one hand, we are being told that this is a matter of utmost importance, yet we are not doing justice to the issue by passing it so hurriedly. We should consult experts who can help verify and improve the bill." Turab interjects, "We would have sent this for consultation had there been any differing opinions on the matter. In this case, there is an ijma on it." Ijma means consensus or agreement. It is one of the 4 recognized sources of Sunni law, utilized where the Quran and Sunnah are silent on a particular issue. Hamza reiterates, "At least adjourn the session for a little while so that everyone, lawyers, legislators, political and religious experts, can go through the bill and refine it to present its best possible version." Turabul Haq interrupts again, "Mr. Hamza, there are most certainly no 2 opinions on the matter." To prove the claim of a consensus, ijma, the parliament repeats its existence throughout the proceedings, justifying the inclusion of the death penalty. "There was a unanimous decision. There is no difference of opinion on this. All schools of thought. The entire Muslim community has a consensus on this. There isn't any need for debate. There is a consensus of Islam on this issue. How could you even think of the idea of publicizing this? There is not even one dissenting opinion. There is not even the tiniest bit of dissent on the matter. No one could have any dissent. I could not find a single dissenting opinion. After thorough investigation in all of the madrasas, this cannot be sent for publishing now. The entire Muslim Ummah has a consensus on this. Except for the death sentence, there is nothing else. There are no 2 opinions about this matter. The entire Ummah has a consensus. There are no 2 opinions on the matter. There is a consensus present. It can't be sent for consultation at this point in time. It should not be sent for consultation and should immediately be passed. Our Mr. Hamza needs to change his view." Moreover, Gohar Rahman and Turabul Haq Qadri provide 5 texts of Islamic law that prove the alleged consensus, ijma, on the death penalty. The parliament claims that Ibn Taymiyyah in Saram al-Maslul relates an ijma on killing anyone who insults the Prophet. In reality, this book cites Abu Hanifa as saying that a non-Muslim will not be killed for insulting the Prophet. The parliament claims that the scholars of Fatawa Alamgiri relate an ijma on awarding the death penalty to anyone who insults the Prophet. In reality, these scholars agree that non-Muslims will not be killed for insulting the Prophet. The parliament claims that Ibn Abidin relates an ijma on awarding the death penalty to anyone who insults the Prophet. On the contrary, Ibn Abidin says that, "If the individual in question is a non-Muslim, he will not be killed for insulting the Prophet." The parliament claims that they have further verified from the madrasas that there is an ijma regarding the death penalty for anyone who insults the Prophet. Inspecting Al-Hidayah, a seminal text on Islamic jurisprudence taught at these madrasas, reveals the polar opposite. It states that, "Insulting the Prophet is disbelief. Since non-Muslims are not killed for their disbelief, they will not be killed for any addition in their disbelief." The parliament claims that Taqiyuddin Subki in Saif al-Maslul relates an ijma on killing anyone who insults the Prophet. On the contrary, the book cites the Hanafi position. If a non-Muslim insults the Holy Prophet, he will not be punished by death. A non-Muslim is not killed for his disbelief or polytheism. These are bigger sins than insulting the Prophet. Furthermore, Al-Tahawi, a foremost Hanafi scholar, has also clearly stated that, "If a non-Muslim commits blasphemy, he will be given a verbal warning. If he repeats the offense, he will be punished but not killed." The truth is that every text cited by the parliament to support claims of consensus on capital punishment for blasphemy reveals a caveat that non-Muslims will not be killed for insulting the Prophet. Therefore, it is safe to say that contrary to what the parliamentarians claimed, this law does not apply to non-Muslims. Ijma, consensus, is a source of Islamic law. The Parliament used ijma as a source of law for the 295C bill. However, we find that this ijma is non-existent for non-Muslims. Does the death penalty then really apply to non-Muslims? Hamza Saab raises two main concerns. 1. There needs to be a proper definition of what constitutes blasphemy. 2. People frivolously accuse one another of being kafirs in order to settle trivial matters. Through thorough debate on the bill, such situations can be avoided. However, Turab accuses Hamza Saab, what you are suggesting is not a process of legislation, but a process of making an atom bomb, and Hamza Saab is once again silenced. And so the motion to pass the bill to include the death penalty was adopted, barring one opposing voice. In a country where it takes months and years to pass the most mundane of laws, it took only a few hours to include the death penalty as a punishment for insulting the Prophet. Can we call this legislative process Islamic? Can we call this legislative process democratic? Is this legislative process not fabricating ijma to silence dissenting voices? Is it not misrepresenting an otherwise rich Islamic tradition? Are these legislators not insulting the very religion that they claim to draw authority from and the people that they claim to represent?